This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at the BatmanUniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Hush is wreaking havoc, hurting cats and kids. He has family problems, ain't the person he should have been. Scarecrow's spreading toxins, I took a big hit. Gave me wicked munchies, but get Selena out of it. Oh, Alfred, Gordon should send his man. I'm hanging in the Batcave with bad books for beginners again. I'm hanging in the Batcave with bad books for beginners again.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of TBU's Bat Books for Beginners, episode 191. My name is Gerry.
And I'm Chris.
And we are your hosts.
On Bat Books for Beginners, we will examine story arcs with Batman and related characters. We'll give you the historical background of the book, break down the plot and the art, and give you our opinions so you can decide for yourself if they're worth a read.
Today's Bat Book Chris and I are covering is Batman R.I.P., Heart of Hush. Chris, tell us a little bit about this book.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Hey, little Bob Dylan there.
Yes.
Yes, very good. Great stuff, my friend.
Thank you.
Hello, Bat fans. Thank you very much for downloading and sharing a part of your day with us. As a trade paperback, Batman Heart of Hush is a 144-page full-color softcover that was first released in December 2009 and cover priced at $14.99. This would go through subsequent printings. Within a year, a hardcover version would be released for $5 more. This book collects 5 issues of Detective Comics, numbers 846 through 850. Those issues were cover dated September 2008 through January 2009. Those issues had a cover price of $2.99, except for issue 850, which was cover priced at $3.99. If you're interested in obtaining a hard copy version of the story, going the trade paperback or online version may be the way to go. Issue 850 appeared to fetch quite a bit from online vendors in the resale pile. Oh. This is available on Comixology for $9.99, and vendors have copies from about $7.50 to around $14 for the hard copy version. For our creative team, per usual, I'll go off online resources and my memory as such as it is. Our writer is Paul Dini, who has been mentioned numerous times on past episodes of our show, so I'll provide the short version of the bio. Dini is 61 years old, and he was born in New York, New York. I think the most recent thing I read from Paul Dini was the Actionland chapter in Action Comics 1000, which was cover dated back in June 2018. Mm-hmm. And that chapter was drawn by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, praise be his name, and Kevin Nolan. He also wrote the very emotional, powerful, and gripping graphic novel entitled Dark Knight. That's Night with the letter N, Dark Knight, a true Batman story in which Dini recounts his vicious, near-fatal mugging attack that occurred back in 1993 in Los Angeles. It's a book worth the read and one that I highly recommend. Bat fans will certainly know Dini from his work on Batman the Animated Series, where he was a writer, editor, and producer on the show. Along with Bruce Timm, he co-created the character Harley Quinn. He's also worked on the oversized graphic novels with Alex Ross. Dini has won 5 Emmy Awards for his talented animated-related work. Before his work on Batman, he's also worked on the Tiny Toon Adventure series, and before that, the Masters of the Universe series. Dini is married to Misty Lee, a magician, and we bring it up every time Jerry and I cover a Dini written story. It's the question, will we get the requisite Zatanna appearance in this story? So stay tuned. Our penciler is Dustin Gwinn. Gwinn was born in 1976. Starting with 840 of Detective Comics, Gwinn would be the regular ongoing artist with writer Paul Dini. Their run lasted until issue 852, after which the pair launched Batman Streets of Gotham, which lasted 21 issues and was canceled in March 2011. In 2012, Gwinn collaborated with writer Scott Snyder on the miniseries American Vampire, Lord of Nightmares, which made the New York Times bestseller list in 2013. He subsequently launched Batman Little Gotham with co-writer Derek Fridloff's, an all-ages series that was positively reviewed by Brian Truitt of USA Today. In rendering that series, Gwinn drew inspiration from the cartoons of the 1980s and 90s that he viewed in his childhood, explaining that in watching them, you get this goofy view of the world. In 2015, writer Jeff Lemire launched his co-creator-owned Image Comics title series Descender, with Gwinn as the artist, for which Gwinn won a 2016 Eisner Award for Best Painter/Multimedia Audience. This series was inked by Derek Fridolfs. Derek Fridolfs is a professional comic book creator. He began his career in 2000, working for Marvel Comics on the title Wolverine. Later he moved on to work for Wildstrom Production and the title Gen Active. He's also worked for Dark Horse Comics on the title Angel. His first published work for DC Comics was in 2007 on the title Superman Batman. And later he would work on other titles including Teen Titans, Green Lantern Corps, Detective Comics, and most recently he's been working for DC on titles like Looney Tunes, Batman, and Scooby-Doo. Over on Amazon.com, this trade paperback has a rating of 4.4 stars out of 5 based on 83 reviews. Okay. And over on Goodreads.com, this has a rating of 4.04 stars out of 5 based on 7,625 ratings and 201 reviews. But do you know any of those critics? Perhaps not. But perhaps you know Gerry and Chris.
Yay!
And just what will we think of this book and how will we score it? Perhaps you recall this story, perhaps you never read it. At any rate, stay tuned to hear our rating, and with that, I shall hand it back over to you, Gerry.
Thanks, Chris. So we're going to talk about this story after a few messages from some of our friends.
Hey folks, this is Jared Albrick, aka the Yard Sale Artist, and semi-regular co-host of the Longbox Crusade podcast with Pat Sampson. Pat came to me recently with a fantastic idea on how we might get the podcast community involved in taking some action to do some good. He called this idea Comics for Courage. Comics for Courage is a concept that came to Pat after I told him the fantastic true story of when I was stationed in Iraq during my military service. While there, I received a huge care package of comic books from the awesome folks over at Wizard and Toy Fair magazines. We had so many comics, we didn't know what to do with them all. Seriously, it was over 100 pounds of comics. So me and a couple of buddies took the bounty of comics we had down to the Give and Take library we'd set up in our headquarters building. And you know what? Within 24 hours, all the comics were gone. The bottom line here is that throughout history, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, one thing remains a constant: soldiers love comics. It's quick, easy, fun reading that gives a soldier a taste of home and lets them escape into an amazing world of comics, even if it's just for a few minutes. So here's the best part of Comics for Courage. Pat and I aren't asking you to donate 1 cent of your money to Comics for Courage. What we would love is for you to donate your excess comics. You know, those ones that are just kind of laying around. Just drop them into a box or a big envelope and mail them over to supportourtroops.org. Their mailing address is Support Our Troops, 13617 North Florida Avenue, Tampa, Florida, 33613. Now, they will make sure those comics get distributed to random soldier care packages, and as a person who's been on the receiving end of this, I can tell you it will mean a lot. And if you'd rather donate money than give up a single comic book, trust me, we understand about that. You can donate through their website as well. Again, that's supportourtroops.org. Just remember 2 things, all right? 2 things. 1, make sure the comics have good, clean content. No nudity or adults-only comics, please. Those are the rules for any military member receiving goods downrange. Okay, and number 2, this is the fun one. Please take a picture of you with your donation stack and post it on Twitter or Facebook at Longbox Crusade, or email it to contact@longboxcrusade.com. We'd love to give you an on-air shout-out and post your pic on the longboxcrusade.com website. In summary, Pat and I over at Longbox Crusade Podcast would greatly appreciate you taking this small action to make a difference in the life of someone who is far from home defending our freedoms. Thank you for supporting the Comics for Courage initiative. That website again is supportourtroops.org. Please check it out. Throw them some comics. Make some soldiers happy. We appreciate it. Thanks again.
Welcome back. So here's the story of Batman R.I.P., Heart of Hush. Bruce has infiltrated Dr. Aesop's gang as Lefty Knox. Aesop is collecting animals illegally. However, Lefty has messed up several heists by, quote, crying wolf, which Dr. Aesop points out means he can't be trusted. Aesop goes to punish Lefty, but Lefty is saved by Catwoman's arrival on the scene. Afterwards, the two discuss how to take down Aesop, as well as Bruce's relationship with Jezebel Jet. Little jealous there.
Mm-hmm.
Their conversation is watched through binoculars by a man with a bandaged face, Hush, also known as Tommy Elliott, Bruce Wayne's childhood friend. Tommy has bought an abandoned hospital with his family's money. He's drugging homeless people and others to work for him.
Well, that's one way.
Yeah, get it at good rates.
Yeah,
under scale. Tommy remembers his past, how he hated his parents and cut the brake line on their car to kill them. Sadly, his mother lived. A cop, Slam Bradley, suspects Tommy, but doesn't pursue his crazy theory. Tommy was jealous of Bruce when his parents were both killed. Tommy's mother was super protective of her son as he grew up. He wasn't able to play like other rich kids because his mother needed him around all the time. Pro tip, don't call Tommy Elliott a mama's boy. He also has rage issues.
Indeed.
So like all good Gotham swells, Tommy was sent to Dr. Crane, also known as Scarecrow, for therapy, which goes about as well as you'd expect. All his life, Tommy was compared to Bruce, and his mother didn't think he measured up to the Wayne scion. Tommy did hook up with Peyton Riley, a member of the notorious Gotham crime family. His mother doesn't approve of the relationship with the crime family member, but with Peyton's help, Tommy ultimately smothers Mom with a pillow to avoid being cut out of the family fortune. Tommy leaves Peyton anyway. He's a pretty cold-hearted fella. Bruce and Selina disrupt Dr. Aesop and his gang thanks to some bat gas and Selina's connection to felines of the lion variety. However, Hush kills Aesop. Batman sees Tommy is still alive, and Tommy says that he won't have to fear any other bad guy while he lives. Batman knows Hush is likely to strike against the Bat family, so everyone fans out to warn the clan. Selina warns Zatanna, you called it, Chris, who uses playing cards to tell Selina's fortune. The card that's turned over is the Queen of Hearts. Hush breaks into Selina's place and kidnaps her. While he fights her, she exposes his face, and she is shocked at what she sees. What could it be? We don't find out yet, as Selina is stabbed in the chest. Hush takes her to the hospital and begins to operate on her. Batman gets a message to come to a cave in a national park. He goes and finds Scarecrow. Scarecrow has taken a foster kid, Colin, with a stuffed animal, Rory, and pumps him full of venom. Colin turns into a beast and attacks bats. Batman fights him, and the kid decides he wants his stuffed animal. Unfortunately for Scarecrow, he's holding the animal and is attacked by the hulked-out kid, or baned-out kid. Batman removes the venom tubes, and Colin returns to normal. Scarecrow tells Batman that this whole thing was a distraction. He contacts Oracle, yay, Oracle, who goes to tell him to go to the hospital. He does, and he finds Selina with her heart removed and on a machine keeping her alive. That Dr. Tommy Elliott is bad news. Batman beats Hush's location at the hospital out of Scarecrow, while Dr. Mid-Nite and Mr. Terrific keep Selina alive. Hush gets reports of the Batmobile on the way to the hospital, and he has his staff fan out to meet Batman. One of the doctors tells him which way Batman is coming, but surprise, the doctor's really Batman. Punches are thrown. Tommy tells Batman how he survived his previous appearance in Hush, and tells Batman what he's been up to since. In short, he didn't die, he got help from Mr. Freeze to build a heart removal machine, and shows Bats he has Selina's ticker on ice. The room is full of knockout gas, however, and Batman passes out. Tommy removes his bandages and reveals he's had plastic surgery to kind of sort of look like Bruce. He plans to kill all the Bat family, with them momentarily mistaking him for Bruce. Tommy goes to Wayne Manor and tries to kill Alfred. That doesn't go as planned since Bruce got away from the hospital staff and called in the warning. Nice moves, Pennyworth. Bruce gets Selina's heart and puts Dr. Mid-Nite and Mr. Terrific on the job. Batman and Hush fight in Wayne Manor under the portraits of Dr. and Mrs. Wayne and make their way to the Batcave. Tommy is suitably impressed with his first view of Batman's secret lair. They fight. Alfred fires up the Batcave T-Rex. Nightwing and Robin arrive and join the battle. Hush takes off in the small Batcopter, the Whirlycopter, but his face bandages get caught in the propellers and it crashes. His body is not found, however. Dr. Mid-Nite and Mr. Terrific have fixed Selina up. Bruce visits her hospital bed, kisses her forehead, and says he will love her forever. She says she's awake and heard it all. They kiss. Selina uses all the means at her disposal to drain Tommy's family fortune. Barbara Gordon tracks down his holdings, some documents are forged, anti-heroes like Harley Quinn and Ivy help track his resources down. Slam Bradley helps too. The Cat team springs into action to avenge their girl. She gets a video to Hush telling him of what she has done to him and that maybe he should end his own life. The end. So Chris and I are going to talk about our feelings for the story after these words from some of our friends.
Sawate. My name is Stella, and I am the host of Batgirl to Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. Batgirl to Oracle is a podcast dedicated to Barbara Gordon, the first woman to hold the mantle of Batgirl for an extended period of time, roughly 1967 to 1988. The goal of Batgirl to Oracle is to examine the character's history from her first appearance as Batgirl and continuing through her tenure as Oracle. Each episode looks at a vintage issue of Detective Comics or Batman, as well as other books like Justice League and Freedom Fighters, and modern issues of Batgirl and Birds of Prey. I also keep track of news involving Batgirl and other members of the Bat family, and I have a revolving series of segments like Babs in the Tube, which highlights appearances of Babs in TV and film, Shipper Spotlight, which looks at a variety of comic and pop culture couples, gives their history, and determines whether they are hot or not. Reading with Stella, which could be described as an audio drama, or just me reading a book that relates to Babs or doesn't, and of course, the mainstay literature recommendation. I've been blessed to interview writers Scott Beatty and Chuck Dixon on their Batgirl Year 1 work, Brian Q. Miller on his Batgirl run, Dwayne Swarzynski and Christy Marks on their separate Birds of Prey work, and the creators and actors of the Batgirl Spoiled, the web series. I hope to interview more creators and actors in the future. My goal, most importantly, is to make a fun, entertaining, and thoughtful show that people enjoy and from which they learn. Find the show online at thebatmanuniverse.net and iTunes, and follow the show on Facebook and Twitter at Batgirl to Oracle. Thank you, and fly on, Babs lovers.
Welcome back. Okay, Chris, what'd you think?
Gerry, some initial impressions with broad brushstrokes to start. Gwen's art may be an acquired taste, but I've always found it really evocative, moody, and dynamic. Now, as with the past material we've covered here, there are some great panels where he likes to do some villain recollections. And, you know, in the opening chapter, we had a great one with Joker, Harley, and Ivy, which I thought was really masterfully rendered. I thought we had an awesome use of flashback storytelling with great artwork and sepia tone. We didn't get too much right away. It sort of builded to a crescendo, if you will, and it was really, really masterfully played out. We had a great battle in the climax with the Batcave, and Hush being taken out by that golden prop of the Whirly Bat, which Batman used back in the day, the solo little helicopter, which was really, really nice. And, such great cat and woman dialogue throughout this, and great conclusion. There was a lot to like here. I think there was something for everybody. Really enjoyed it. What were your initial thoughts, Gerry?
Well, first of all, this is a Bruce and Selina story, so this has every reason for me to like it starting out the gate. I know our last episode was a Bruce and Selina story. Didn't go so well. This time is very different.
Absolutely.
This really shows how close the two are. There's discussions about their relationship, Bruce's relationship with Jezebel Jet and his prior near-miss relationship with Zatanna. All this comes up, but it seems like everybody knows that Batman and Catwoman, Bruce and Selina, are soulmates. And everyone understands that, as do I. And so this is my wheelhouse. I love this story, how that's developed. And I think it was done expertly here in this case.
Yes. Now, what do you think of Tommy Elliott as a villain?
Well, I read Hush. I liked Hush. I don't think I have the, reverence for it that other people do. I think I actually liked him here even more so than I did there. I like the callback to Tommy and Bruce's childhood, get a little background as to where Tommy's coming from and how he's always had this kind of deception in his personality, in his heart. That's part of who he is. He was a false friend to Bruce for a long time, spending time with him, but also, kind of hating him in a way too. So, he does have family problems. So his mom isn't the best and his dad wasn't the best. You get what you get, but I think he's an effective, nemesis for Bruce here. I liked him. What do you think about Hush as a character?
Well, I like him a bit. I was a fan with the Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee story, which started back in Batman 68, and I think it's always held in reverence as one of the more current Batman quote-unquote classics, at least pre-Rebirth and New 52. And just for the sake of argument, I was going to say, well, I know we both I know I like the story, and I'm pretty sure you were going to like it, and I just didn't want to conjure up a debate to see if Hush was a contrived villain in any sense. Here Batman had been around for, decades, and here's the introduction. Oh, by the way, Bruce had a friend named Tommy Elliott. Did this seem contrived in any way? But, this was something I allowed to pass, and I think most of fandom did as well. I think I don't know of anybody who hates the character, let's say, as a villain that's hated. I don't know if he's revered as much or an upper tier as of yet, but I think the character is a good character.
Yeah, and I think the connection with Bruce's past makes it a different kind of character that, is different than your Riddler or Joker or whatever. This is a childhood thing. So, and I think it works well here in this case. I think that Tommy's mom always trying to compare him to Bruce, and you can understand why he has this animosity towards him, and you feel for him in a way, but of course, ultimately he's the bad guy, and you want Batman to beat him up. And it's funny, he has these fantasies, and there's a little bit of a jip at the beginning of one of these issues here. I think it's 847, where you see, Hush kills Batman. I don't want to.
I wasn't fooled, but I thought that was really well done myself. Yeah. You thought it was a little bit of a jip?
I thought it was a little bit of a jip. I was like, oh, he killed Batman. It's like, well, here we go. We're going to go down this plot line. And it's like, no, he's just dressing people up to practice killing Batman. So, it was funny, but I was like, what?
I think I saw Dr. Loveless do that with Jim West on Wild Wild West once. He had all these fake Jim West walking around, and he had a school where the guys would practice to assassinate Jim West. So I thought, maybe that was still a little fresh in my mind when I did the reread of this. So I thought, okay, that's what this is all about.
Too funny. But yeah, we had, the whole romantic thing where, Selina goes when she visits Zatanna, and, Zatanna even knows that, I just can't compete with Selina, with Bruce. And, it's a really nice, friendly, competitive interaction between the two characters, which I don't know, has there been a lot of back and forth between Selina and Zatanna in other stories? This was pretty good here.
I agree, Jerry, and not that I recall. I think this is the one the only thing that comes to mind was, in something we read for the show was where, Zatanna did the mea culpa with all the whole mind wipe thing from the fallout from Identity Crisis. Beyond that, I think they sort of buried the hatchet, and it was nice to see them here. And I don't know why I keep asking myself if we're gonna see Zatanna in Paul Dini's story that we cover, but here she is again. And I don't think it's necessarily overkill. I think some might make a case for it. Why is she popping up in these stories? But I don't mind this. I like it. Yeah, I think this was good. I think this story offered a lot of characters, and Zatanna was no different. Everybody had their little moments here.
Yeah, we get the Wonderland gang. We get Dr. Mid-Nite and Mr. Terrific. So that's, and with them, with Dr. Mid-Nite and Mr. Terrific, they had a great moment where they, kind of realized that Batman loves Catwoman. Like it's just another heartwarming moment about their relationship that I really appreciated.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of comedy in this story, and I was thinking about that Scarecrow and Colin sequence, with the little kid, and there was like a moment where Colin wants his bear Rory, and he looks around, and unfortunately Scarecrow is holding it, and then the kid goes after Scarecrow to get his bear back, and it's just the way it was presented, just these kind of the realization of the character of Scarecrow going like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. And, it's really these little moments, and even that whole sequence, even though it is kind of filler to quote unquote distract Batman, it's done really, really well. Even the filler in this story works, right? You have this kid who's being, used to fight Batman, and he's just a scared, kind of homeless foster kid that wants his bear and just wants to be, safe and warm and happy. And he's being kind of tortured by Scarecrow. And it's full of compassion for this kid that even though Batman has to fight him, he doesn't want to hurt him because he understands what's going on. This is, I think, really, really good writing work from Denny and really good artwork to bring out your compassion for these characters and also mix in some humor, visual humor at the same time. I think it's really well done.
I do too. Gerry, I mentioned the flashbacks and how they pulled it off in this book. Mm-hmm. And just with each little sequence, we got a little bit more of a reveal and a little bit more of story progression. Mm-hmm. I thought it was well done. I thought the facial expressions were outstanding. Yes. Did you think this was really executed as storytelling goes? Did you think it was a little bit of overkill? Was it too little, too much, or just right with the flashbacks, in your opinion?
For me, I like the flashbacks a lot. So I think they had a good story arc or life arc, if you will, for Tommy, as he's, his father is an alcoholic that's horrible to him, and is, you can see why he wants to kill him because he's, living such a terrible life. And, Tommy's flawed, and he's seriously flawed, and he is in some ways kind of the polar opposite of Bruce, but, really his flaws are exacerbated by his situation, and it turns him into a bad guy. While Bruce, and it shows it here in the story, I think it's a really good contrast between the two, that Bruce really does have a pure heart and has problems in his life, but faces them and deals with them very differently. So the two are similar but different, and I think that these flashbacks really show that strongly and, make it clear who you should be rooting for in this case.
Yeah, great point.
How about you? What did you think about those flashbacks?
I really enjoyed them because I think we get to see the depiction of children, and there's just this steady progression of time passages with each one. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think flashbacks can be told in an ineffective way, and they can either be a little bit of overkill, there can be too much of a little bit of a tell, mm-hmm. and it at the end we don't get enough meat or too little or too mm-hmm. much, and I think this was just right. This was really, really well done. I think Denny had a plan. Okay, I'm going to execute this story in 5 break it down, and it seems so seamless. It just seems so seamless, and I thought it was really, really well crafted. I almost would like to see a different adaptation of this, even if it be it in prose or in animation form or even live action. I think there's a lot to be had here.
Yeah, I agree. And there's really so much for fans, for folks that have been, reading Batman for a while, even just in this kind of arc or in this kind of time period or in general. You see Peyton Riley. We get the background of Peyton Riley, who we've seen recently as the ventriloquist. So I thought that was interesting to see kind of her history with Tommy Elliott. And also in the Batcave, there's a bunch of Batmobiles.
Yes.
That looks
Loved
fun.
it. I love that. We had the dinosaur, we had the Batmobiles, and the whirly bats. I think there was the 66 Batmobile was in there, the one with the big hood from the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a nice touch. And I'm a sucker when they allude to the Golden Age devices, and the whirly bat was just so classic. And I am so glad. I can't remember the last time I saw a whirly bat in a story. I thought, how cool is that? And the dinosaur looked menacing, and it was just really, really a great setting and a well-depicted scene.
Yeah, and I think the thing for me at the end was how Harley and Ivy stepped in to help Selina avenge what Tommy had done to her. And, they're the sirens, right? You don't mess with the sirens, because you mess with one of them and you've got the other two are going to come after you. So I thought that was, for me, who I really like the sirens as a team. I really enjoyed seeing that kind of retribution against Tommy.
It was, and how it was played out. It was almost very somatic in approach, because you have Elliot listen to this recorded message on a computer where you see this, and then we get to see all the smash cuts to Harley with the money and Ivy having her fun with it, and just the words that she used there. There was one particular piece of writing right before Hush shuts off the message in disgust, and Selina says, "Yeah, pretty classy for a quote gutter slut. I may not be much in a lady in your eyes, but even you have to admit I'm one hell of a thief." And I thought, yes,
she is.
perfect Catwoman right there. Just loved it.
Yeah, fantastic. So kind of, stepping back, what do you think about this as a story? Would you rate it? Would you review it? Where would you fall on this?
Jerry, we get to the point where some things are a no-brainer, and I love episodes where things to be a no-brainer. I love when I do the research, then I see that things, this went through multiple printings. That's sort of a tell for me that this was a really revered book, and this is probably going to be something I'm going to like. I have to confess, I didn't remember as much of this when it came out initially. I mean, I've just read so many things since then, and I didn't get a chance to revisit it. As I've said in the past, I love being part of the show because it forces me to reread some of the other stuff. Well, let me see if I can get on the fence a little bit and take a step back. Was this a quote-unquote event book? I mean, did this have something like, is it going to be referred to in future years of Batman, like, I remember that No Man's Land event. I remember, Identity Crisis. I remember these things like that. Not necessarily so, but I don't want to shortchange this in any way, shape, or form. This is a great story. Yeah. It's not an event book, but would I recommend it? Absolutely. Would I rate it highly? If I'm going to say 5 is a masterpiece and 4.5 is a near masterpiece, this is going to be a solid 4 out of 5 for me. I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it for any Bat fan. You've got a little bit of everything here. It's a well-crafted story, great villain, great artwork. We've got Batman a little bit on the ropes here. There's point, counterpoint, each villain trying to outthink the other. Yep. Good stuff here. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say 4 out of 5 and a marginal must read, but it definitely, it is a must read, I think. How about you?
Yeah, I would say, especially if you have any kind of, appreciation for the Bruce and Selina relationship, I think this is one of the very, very good, one of the best, relationship stories where he's really got to save her, but there's good interactions between them, and even the interactions of them separately, much of it is about the other. And so if you're a Bruce Selina fan, I would say that this is a must-read. And if you're just, it's so good, I think that this is something I definitely recommend anybody would read it, but it's just that it's so good that it borderlines on must-read. I would go with you with 4. I could see myself going as high as 4.5 on this, and I think
sure I could too. Yeah,
that and that's could be just for me being such a big Bruce Selina fan. And this is just right up my alley. So for me personally, it would probably be 4.5, and I think for the average person, it would probably be a 4.
Sure. Yeah, and I do want to mention, I did forget to mention, Destin Gwynn also provided the cover art. The covers were magnificent. Some of them were just almost suitable for me being a poster, especially 850, which I think was used on the trade. Just a great cover. All of them were outstanding. So
the art in general is really good. I mean,
Yes.
there's so much strong work with the colors, and it's almost like they're abstract colored shapes, and they're kind of, some of them, where they're emerging from these dark backgrounds. And it's really, really strong use of kind of the darkness and the negative space and, having things, coming out vividly inside that kind of setup. It's really strong. And I think the art here is really exceptional.
Sounds great.
All right.
We are in agreement, yes.
We are in agreement. We are unanimous in that. All right. So now, folks, don't forget to check Chris and I out. We also have another show that we do, that we're about to do in about 10 minutes, the Professor Frenzy Show. By the time this episode is aired, we will have released, we're going to be working on the 21st episode of the Professor Frenzy Show, and that's about indie comics and other pop culture topics, and we've been having a great time over there. So check that show out. You can search on iTunes for the Professor Frenzy Show and enjoy that one. You can also see Chris out on Twitter, and he's at BTON Batbooks, and he does some other things where he reviews some things for the Batgirl to Oracle podcast, one of which is Batman Adventures, which is fantastic, and then you do some shipper stuff too over there, don't you?
Yeah, I have a little segment within a segment that's called Night Watch. I just look at the Nightwing title and look at it from a shipper perspective. I think that's something that is on Stella's radar. Stella's the host of the Batgirl to Oracle show, and she's given me a little platform to do what I want, with this. But I'm looking at the current Batman Adventures. Well, not the current, but currently I'm looking at the Batman Adventures title. This was a title back in the 90s that was based on the animated series of the time, and those were some great stories that I thought were a little underrated, and I didn't think they got much of a spotlight. And I'm trying to promote and hey, remember this Batman story? It was really good. So I'm trying to give that a little boost. If you're looking for a Batman story, that's good and for all ages. Also, I'm looking at Batman 66 meets Archie, or Batman 66 meets Archie, if you will. And it's a lot of fun. You've got the villains of the past series in there. You've got Joker, Penguin, Riddler, Catwoman, the Sirens even involved with this, and they invade Riverdale. So zany hijinks ensue, and I'm a sucker for Batman 66, so I'm also giving that a look at. Jerry, I know you're having a lot of fun reading comics because you like the Gotham females such as Batgirl and Catwoman.
Yes.
You've got the great distinction of writing some excellent reviews that I just can't wait till they drop, because I really like your prose and take on this. And where can listeners find your written reviews of Batgirl and Catwoman?
You can find them on the BatmanUniverse.net website. And so the BatmanUniverse.net, which is, one of the sponsors of this show, this is where we do this show from, they have all kinds of great Batman and Bat Family related content. And over there I do reviews for Batgirl and Catwoman, as you said. I just did, last week I did one for Harley Quinn, number 50, which was...
Oh, that's right. Thank you for reminding me, yeah.
That was a wild one, so...
That was, with the continuity and everything like that.
Yeah, it was bananas.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you can also, if you find me out on Twitter, you can find me at Professor Frenzy, and I tweet out my weekly comics and talk about indie comics and tweet about how hard it is sometimes getting through some of the story arcs in Dark Shadows, which I'm stuck in one right now. And Chris and I also live tweet horror movies at the hashtag Svengoolie on Saturday evenings, and we saw a pretty good one last night, didn't we, Chris?
Yeah, Return of the Creature. I can't go wrong with the Universal, and when you hear those horns playing, even if you just didn't know that Creature is going to strike. And great movie, John Agar, of course, horror movie veteran, and just a lot of fun. I love those old Universal horror movies, and that was one I think that got that particular film kept getting preemptive on Sven for some reason, and we finally got to see it, and it was a lot of fun.
There were some rights issues I think they had.
That's what happened. Okay, thanks.
And I think we got stuck with ants a couple of times.
Yeah, we did, which was one was enough for me.
Yeah, Myrna Loy is great, but yeah.
Yes. Hey, Jerry, one thing I was going to back up a little bit. What do you think of Batgirl's new costume?
I like it. I'm really liking the Batgirl, the story. So actually, to be really honest with you, I'm really more focused on what's going on with her at this point. I think the costume is it's still reminiscent of the Burnside-ish. It's got elements, it's got the flavor, it's got a kind of a youngish feel. But that's not something that I really get too concerned about. As you could tell by, if you saw me dress, you'd say, oh yeah, he doesn't care about his clothes too much. How about you? Do you like it?
It's kind of growing on me. Initially, okay. I didn't. I kind of thought, well, I don't know about the boots. They kind of look a little weird. But and I don't know if you got all the hair flowing there and just the one facial mask. Yeah, but it's growing on me. I will say I like how it's been depicted so far in what I've seen. So yeah, it's growing on me.
How about the Catwoman costume?
Well, I'm glad we're going in more of a direction like this. I'm kind of tired with the zipper and the goggles. I want to see the next incarnation. I kind of want to move away from that a little bit.
I'm sure we'll get comments on other folks when they hear this. What are you guys crazy? It's great or it's terrible.
Well, speaking of comments, we did get some comments on our last episode, and that's where we covered Catwoman: The Long Road Home. Oh, yeah. And we heard from Captain DC, who mentioned over on the TBU website, he said, quote, "Definitely not the greatest ending to this Catwoman run. Kind of like with Tom King's Batman number 50, a lot of quality character development was chucked out the window, just for the sake of emotional conflict / melodrama. Helena didn't need to be given up for adoption. Yeah. Selina could have at least raised Helena up until the Flashpoint reboot. Eventually revealing that Bruce was actually the father would have been nice. Catwoman toying with Batman in issue number 82 was great. But I wish Will Pfeiffer would have left Catwoman with a better status quo, prior to Paul Dini using her in his runs of Detective Comics and Gotham City Sirens." First off, Captain DC, thank you for leaving us a comment on the TBU website. We really sincerely appreciate you taking the time to write. And I think you raise a lot of great points because there was a lot of character development checked out the window just for the sake of emotional conflict. I can't agree with you more. The point with Helena, yes, I agree with you. Good stuff there. And we really thank you for listening. Yeah, I do wish Will Pfeiffer would have left Catwoman with a better status quo. I totally agree with you.
And even Batman agrees with him on the adoption of Helena.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, thank you for chiming in. We really appreciate it, and such concise points, and I think you nailed them all. Now over on Twitter, Optimus Prime 99, who is on Twitter at Optimus Prime 99, naturally, he commented with respect to that episode, the legendary Paul Dini, and I guess he's on Twitter at Paul_Dini, was able to pick up those threads from Jeff Loeb's iconic Batman Hush, along with the amazing Ed Brubaker / Darwin Cook Catwoman run, and really solidify the hashtag Bat-Cat relationship for the modern era. Yeah, Optimus Prime, thank you very much for chiming in. Yeah, you notice how one writer kind of just picks up the reins where somebody left off and discards it. I think Optimus Prime brings up a good point as well. Now, let's see. For the likes and retweets on the past episode, we heard from the following. Randy, the comics nerd at Randall Andrews 1. He's the host of Soundtrack Alley podcast. Yep. Christados at Christados 1. That's the podcast moniker for the International Man of Mystery. Now, podcasts that he can be found on are at The Longbox Crusade and OHMS podcast and other great appearances on other podcasts. Here. Now, that OHMS pod is for the James Bond podcast that they do. We also heard from Rad Adventures at Rad_Adventures. Rad is a network of podcasts from Darren and Ruth focused on adventures, stories, including Trekker Tark, Warlord Worlds, and Xenozoic Xenophiles. We heard from Batman Crime Solver at Batman Crime Solve, Scott X at The Mind of Scott X, Coffee and Comics at Coffee and Comics Blog. Okay, thanks, Clinton, and give his podcast a listen to while having a cup of Joe. The Selling Out at The Selling Out Show. That's a bi-weekly show about the world we live in, hosted by a couple of guys who screw up at every turn. Hey, thanks, Dave.
Awesome.
Luis Guillen at Louis_GR. Gal Walks into a comic shop at Gal Walks. Hey, that's a good show. Barbara is starting to read comics. And Bob has read them before, and on top of that, he provides fun quizzes, audio plays. Now, occasionally Barbara sings, and there's even an occasional appearance of Stan the Man himself.
Nice.
Fun show. We also heard from the_man94 at the_man94, Alex at AH7785, George at Hypnotic89, Green Lantern HG at Green Lantern HG, of course. Thank you so much. Lisa Ann Roses Magagea fan at Magagea fan ×2. Great.
Nice.
Thanks so much, everybody. If we overlooked you, please send a tweet or direct message to Gerry at Professor Frenzy on Twitter or myself at BTO on Batbooks, and we will be sure to mention you on our next show. Can't thank you enough for all your comments and likes and retweets on Twitter. That's really, really flattering.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Really is. Thanks, everyone. Well, that's all we have for today. Please join us next time where Chris and I will continue our coverage of Batman R.I.P. My name is Gerry.
And I'm Chris.
And thank you for listening to Bat Books for Beginners. Hush is wreaking havoc, hurting cats and kids. He has family problems, ain't the person he should have been. Scarecrows spreading toxins, I took a big hit. Gave me wicked munchies, but get Selena out of it. Oh, Alfred, Gordon should send his man. I'm hanging in the Batcave with bad books for beginners again. I'm hanging in the Batcave with bad books for beginners again.